Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends. Welcome to this week's edition of Magic the Gathering Market Watch. So I was happy I was able to squeeze this in. There were no spoilers today for Battle for Zendikar, so I figured let's get the Market Watch in because you never know when spoilers are going to pop back up again. So today we're going to look at some of the impact of the impending standard rotation, as well as a new modern deck that's seen some success recently, Modern Slivers, and how those have impacted the market. Let's start by looking at the top 5 standard cards that lost value this week. Coming in at number 5, we got Kytheon, Hero of Akros. He lost another 45 cents, bringing him down to 905. So Kytheon, he just doesn't have a home. It's not that he's a bad card. He simply just needs to be in a White Weenie or Selesnya Weenie deck where he can really shine, and that just hasn't existed in the standard game. Post-rotation, depending on what Zendikar gives us, maybe there'll be some strong allies in those colors. That could be a different story, and he could show up as a big player post-rotation. So he's only $9. If you want to get copies of Kytheon, it might not be a bad idea to pick them up while they're at $9. It is a little bit of a gamble. He might become useless post-rotation, or you might turn out that you want 4 of them to play in your deck. So who knows? But it's not a huge investment at this point. Number 4 is Demonic Pack. And this card saw a little bit of success in Standard, but quite honestly, when you have streamlined cards like Siege Rhino and Tasigur, and it appears that maybe some of the allies will be coming into rotation out there, a card like this I just feel is just a little too clunky to force to work. It's a great card, and it's an awesome casual card, and I could definitely see it getting some play in Commander or some decks that have a little more flexibility and control over bouncing or getting rid of this card. But at the same time, I just don't see it happening in Standard. So it went down 49 cents, bringing it down to 450. I think it probably will go down a little bit more as well. But if you want to pick these up just for casual play, they're pretty cheap right now. Number 3 is Goblin Pile Driver, and it lost 59 cents, bringing it down to 640. So again, this is just a card that had a lot of hype at release. It was a great card in the old days of Magic, and just didn't really do anything yet in Modern or Standard. Even with Rabble Master, it just couldn't quite get there. It saw some fringe play in decks, but nothing that really kind of took over the scene. So with this card, it's pretty cheap right now if you want to grab some copies of it. I do feel like someday this will be Modern playable. If not today, at some point more goblins will be added to the Modern environment, and at that point a goblin deck could emerge. This will be part of it. So this is a card that I would certainly pick up if you have any desire of playing Goblin Tribal in the future of Modern, because the day will come where this will become a piece of that deck. Just hard to say when, but paying $640 for one of these is not a bad deal. Number 2 is Days Undoing, and this lost another 72 cents, bringing it down to 607. Kind of the same story. A lot of hype when this first came out. This card saw a little bit of success the first week that Magic Origins was in Standard, but it just was a little bit too clunky. And you know what happens with this card? It's Time Twister with a drawback, but Time Twister is only as good as the cards you're drawing. And yeah, sure, in Vintage you can draw the most broken cards in the world and really take control of a game. In Standard, you're drawing a lot more fair cards, so in turn, it becomes a much more fair card. So, having said that, not to say somebody's not going to be able to find a use for it at some point in Modern. $6 is pretty cheap. I wouldn't mind picking some of these up for that price and just hanging on to them just in case I need them someday in Modern. But I don't think it's going to be anytime soon that you see this card utilized in a deck. And the number 1 card that lost value this week was Nissa Vastwood Seer. She lost $1.11, bringing her down to $25.69. This is just stabilization. Nissa's still seeing a lot of play in Standard. She's going to see more play, I think, when Zendikar comes out. Just the fact that she grabs you in land, she's going to work well with landfall. There'll be a little bit of synergy there. So this card, $25 maybe still seems a little pricey for it, but if you can pick these things up for 2022, I think that'll be a good price. And kind of watch this one post-rotation. This one could go up post-rotation back to a $25, $30 card easily. All right, let's look at the top 5 standard cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 5 is Sliver Hive Lord, and it went up 51 cents, bringing it up to $8.36. So even though we're looking at standard legal cards, this really has been driven by Modern. There was a deck that came out recently that's become bigger, and it's a Sliver deck. Typically what we've seen in Modern is Tribal has been controlled by Merfolk, But it's reached a point where Slivers are using kind of that same strategy the Merfolk deck uses, but in some ways have been more successful very recently. And there was a deck last weekend that topped 8 in the Star City Games Modern Tournament, which was a Sliver deck. So this card was part of it. In turn, people are interested, and people love Slivers. They're a great casual card. You see Sliver Commander decks out there and stuff like that. So people are going to gravitate to this idea, and when it top 8's a tournament, it's going to get a little steam, and that's what we're seeing here. I think this can have some long-term viability, though. It's very possible. Slivers are always going to be fan favorite cards. If you can find these for $8 to $10, I'd probably pick them up. It's just not a bad thing to have. Number 4 is Hardened Scales, and went up 56 cents, bringing it up to 228. Some of this is speculation around post-rotation. There was a deck that is mostly made up of post-rotation cards, with a few Theros block cards in there, that is really focused on Hardened Scales, and the intention is when the block does shift, especially early on before people get comfortable using some of the new cards and find really good strategies with them, that the Hardened Scales deck can easily be adapted into a standard post-rotation deck. So that's why this one's seeing a little bit of an increase. The deck looks pretty good. If you've seen the deck list for it, I mean, it does run things like Ajani Mentor of Heroes, and there's a lot of Theros cards on the sideboard, like Elspeth, so those will have to be switched out. But for the most part, your core creature group are all post-rotation creatures. Number 3 is Sliver Hive. So same story as the Sliver Hive Lord. This card is in that Sliver deck in Modern, so it's starting to see an increase. Went up 79 cents, bringing it up to 393. Again, Slivers are fan favorite cards. As M15 kind of goes out of rotation, you can pick these up cheap, maybe get them for $3, $4. It's not a bad deal. Number 2 is Hangerback Walker. So it's gone up 83 cents, bringing it up to 1782. This is the creature right now in Magic. It's going up, and it will probably continue to go up for a while, even post-rotation. I think Hangerback will do well post-rotation. It's just a staple card in so many decks already. I don't think that's going to change. And it's seeing Modern play. Shoot, it's seeing Vintage play, so it's just showing up everywhere. If you can find these things under $20, you might want to bite the bullet and pick them up. And the number 1 standard card that increased this week, yet again, is Jace of Urn's Prodigy. And this one up another $1.98, bringing it up to $41.99. I think this one's starting to hit its peak. It's a great card. It's seeing tons of play. But packs of this are being opened with great frequency. So you want to be careful when a card is creeping up to the $40, $50 range and it's in the current set. Post-rotation, I think people will shift their attention to some of the shiny new cards that are in Battle for Zendikar, and this will probably drop a little bit. So if you're looking to pick these up and you're not in a hurry, you don't need them for a standard deck tomorrow, you might want to wait a few weeks until Battle for Zendikar drops. I have a feeling this will at least get down, maybe back down to $30, $35 in time. It's still going to be a valuable card. It's still going to see a lot of play as long as it's in standard. Its future in Modern is still kind of up in the air, but it is a 2-drop that does quite a bit of work. So odds are, long term, this will probably still be a good investment regardless. Next, let's look at the top 5 Modern cards that lost value this week. Number 5 is Misty Rainforest. So the Zendikar fetch lands, they all saw a big spike in value a few weeks back when it was announced that they wouldn't be reprinted in Battle for Zendikar. Whenever you get a huge spike like that, there's usually some downswing shortly after. There's just a lot of hype when the spike happens, and then the prices will start to stabilize. And that's what you're going to see with these cards. Misty Rainforest is an example of that. It went down $1.42, bringing it down to $62.13. Still a very respectable price for this card. As far as the Expedition reprints go, it's not going to affect the value of these things. They're just too rare for it to really matter, quite honestly. If anything, it might draw attention to these cards and might get more players out there actively trying to pick them up in the secondary market, so it may actually increase the price. I can't really tell you, as far as the value of this card goes, I can't really say don't pick it up at $60. It will probably go down a little more. At some point, these things will get reprinted, but we just don't know when, and who knows how high the value will be at that point. So you got one of two choices. If you need these to play in your Modern decks, you bite the bullet and you buy them. If you can wait a year, 2 years, 3 years, then you just wait, and you will get a better deal. It's just a matter of, are you in a position that you want to do that? Number 4 is Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, and he went down to $1.44, bringing him down to $30.28, and he just simply was reprinted in Modern Masters 2015, and he's the type of creature that decks just want one of, so the extra reprints have brought his value down a little bit, particularly looking at the Rise of the Eldrazi version of the card here, and $30 is still a pretty respectable price for this card. Number 3 is Scalding Tarn, so same story here as Misty Rainforest. This one lost to $1.61, bringing it down to $78.53. And another Zendikar Fetch Land. This one is the Verdant Catacombs. It went down to $1.74, bringing it down to $55. And our number 1 modern card that lost value this week was Tarmogoyf, and that includes both the Modern Masters 2015 and the Modern Masters versions, taking the biggest hits. The Modern Masters 2015 version lost $4.14, bringing it down to $150.72, and the original Modern Masters lost $3.28, bringing it down to $168.22. So part of this is just simply the fact that Tarmogoyf isn't getting as much play as it used to. There's other decks out there, there's other cards out there that are kind of taking over the metagame a little bit. It's still a great card. It's still a very expensive card, as you can see, but it expected to continue to lose some ground. As far as the Modern Masters 2015 version, there's also a lack of buyer's confidence in the condition of these cards because many of them came out of packs damaged, and the printing process was not as good as your normal Magic cards, which makes players gravitate a little more to the other versions of Tarmogoyf. And as you can see, for example, the Modern Masters version is quite a bit higher still than the 2015 version of it. Having said that, if you just want to play with Tarmogoyfs, I would definitely pick up the Modern Masters 2015 version because you're going to save some money there. Now let's look at the top 5 modern cards that gained value this week. Coming in number 5 is Steel Overseer. It gained 41 cents, bringing it up to $10.97. This has been a fixture in the Affinity decks, and it's going to continue to be. These Affinity decks have done very well, and they're going to do very well. There's always going to be times in the metagame where they'll fall off a little bit because decks will sideboard against these more so. They see a lot of success. But right now, these are definitely on the upswing. Number 4 is Black Cleave Cliffs, and this is the Scars land that sees the most play right now in Modern, but all Scars lands are probably a good investment. You can still get them pretty cheap. This one's gone up 47 cents, bringing it up to $16.79. Number 3 is Engineered Explosives, going up 49 cents, bringing it up to $18.79. And this does deal pretty well with a lot of the tribal decks that are out there, like your Merfolk, your Slivers. So I think a lot of folks are picking this up as sideboard tech right now. Number 2 is Sedge Sliver. Speaking of which, this went up 60 cents, bringing it up to $7.79. And this was one of the slivers that maybe not a lot of people think about, but it did see a lot of play this past week in this Sliver Modern deck, and it was a very successful card. It's not one of those slivers that has been worth a lot of money in the past or anything like that, but I think players are catching on that this is a good one. And our top modern mover this week is A Life from the Loam. It went up 62 cents, bringing it up to $9.26. And again, Dredge and Dredge strategies are just kind of on the rise again. They're easy to sideboard against, so kind of like Affinity, they kind of go up and down, but right now it's definitely on the upswing. So having said that, those are the cards that are moving this week in Standard and Modern. In the future, after Battle for Zendikar Spoilers and set reviews over, I do want to expand Market Watch a little bit, and I am working on doing a foil/legacy version of Market Watch. I haven't decided how often I would air that yet, but let me know your thoughts. I think that there's a lot of interesting things to talk about in Legacy, as well as just the foil market in general. So look for that in the future. As always, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a good day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. These videos are made possible by viewers just like you through Patreon. Please check out our Patreon page by clicking on the top right. Down below, we have more links to quality Magic the Gathering content, and if you're interested in seeing trading cards open that aren't Magic the Gathering, check out the link to our trading card channel, Heroes and Legends Trading Cards. Thanks, and have a great day.